it was the most disgusting thing you could ever imagine.
Been a long time without you. Been a long time without love. Everything reminds me of you, but everything is not.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the Fun, Love and Money channel. My name's Param. I'm at my parents' house in Spain, enjoying the weather. That's my girlfriend Gosha behind me. Do you want to say hello, Gosha? Hello. Yeah, so we're chilling in the pool, having a good time. That's my daughter Zaira behind me as well. So yeah, got a funny story for everyone here. Got a story about my first job working in Heathrow Airport. So remember I was saying you got to go through the hard yards. So my parents had a lodger at their house and he worked in one of the pubs in Heathrow Airport. And I thought it would be absolutely amazing if at 16 I could get a job in a pub and pour pints and everything like that. But unfortunately, because I was too young, that didn't materialize. So they offered me another job as what was called a kitchen porter. So I didn't really understand what a kitchen porter was. I thought, I don't know, maybe it was something to do with cooking and something to do with working in the kitchens. I thought it was quite cool. So didn't tell me anything about the job, told me just to rock up at Terminal 3 at 8 a.m. I think it was on a Monday morning. So I went through, I had to take my passport and go through security, and I thought I was so cool getting a little airport security pass and I could kind of go airside, and it was sort of what I thought was really glamorous, but far from the truth. So Terminal 3, the Granary part of Forte restaurants, probably one of the worst jobs that I've ever had to do. I think I was earning about £3.45, maybe £3.80 at the time. So I don't actually know what it was, but it wasn't a bad salary for the job. So first thing, they gave me these overalls that were too small for me. And they said, kind of go through. And I was kind of picked up by an older Asian guy and taken airside. And I was also really excited. Anyway, so they took me to what was the wash-up room at the back. And the wash-up room was tiny, and I couldn't even see from one side of the wash-up room to the other. It was so smoky and steamy, and it was the smell that was just something unbelievable. It was like make you retch. So they had these big Hobart wash-up machines that you would rack the dishes up in, and you'd put them through this machine, and they would kind of steam clean them and jet wash them, and it was absolutely gross. And the smell of, imagine eggs, bacon. At the time, people were smoking in restaurants, cigarettes, cigarette ash, butts. It was the most disgusting thing you could ever imagine. And as I said, I mean, the smell, you could literally not even see from one side to the other, and the smell was absolutely gross. But anyway, I stuck with the job. And the people that I was working with were the most interesting ever as well. So it was all people from the Indian subcontinent. Most of them couldn't even speak English properly. So you had a group of generally the older guys who would be in the wash-up room. And one of them that particularly came to mind, he was a guy called Kruvant. And the first thing he said to me, he didn't speak any English. He said, "You drink whiskey, whiskey, whiskey?" And his catchphrase was "whiskey, whiskey." And he used to have a plastic bag. I don't know how he used to bring it airside every day with him. And he used to have a bottle of whiskey in there, and he used to have these disposable plastic cups. And he would literally just sit there and have these disposable plastic cups and be drinking the whiskey. And what actually would end up happening, he was just completely an alcoholic. And yeah, crazy guy. And so another thing as well that was interesting is everybody was always speaking Indian as well. So they assumed if you were brown that you would be Indian as well. So they would all kind of speak to me in Indian. And I actually ended up being quite good at picking up kind of basic Punjabi as a result of it. But anyway, so these guys all sort of hardcore alcoholics, kind of felt sorry for them. But yeah, it was a very, very difficult job and literally racking up dishes. A funny story as well that was there is the level of, I'm probably not going to get this on YouTube or not, but the level of sexual deviancies that I saw from these guys was completely off the scale. I mean, bearing in mind, 16-year-old, having grown up in Chiswick, I was not exposed to anything like this at all. So I remember this one time I would come in and do the late shift, which was from about 2 till 11 at night. And this guy called Vance, one time, he was on the morning shift and he was kind of getting ready and changed. And they had a changing rooms kind of down in the basement, so you'd have to kind of go down onto the lower ground floor, and they had some lockers and a chair in this kind of room, and everybody would get changed on their shift. So it was quite busy because you'd have the people from the late shift coming and the people from the early shift finishing. And one time this guy was sat on a chair with his whiskey and a porno mag, and he had his porno mag on his lap, and he had his chap out, and he was whacking one out, giving it the old 5-knuckle shuffle. And again, at 16, I was like, what the hell is going on with this guy? And he was kind of, just going on. And what I found strangest about that was that the other people that were working there were not at all kind of fazed by it. It just seemed absolutely normal. And what I later found out was a lot of the time, immigrants that are from the Asian subcontinent, they often cohabit maybe 15, 20 to a house, and maybe 10 or 11 guys will all share a room, and if they need to do what they need to do, then they're kind of quite able to do it amongst each other, which I found was very, very, very strange. Another thing that I actually found quite repulsive and disgusting was the actual passion that they seemed to have for young schoolgirls. And this was actually completely cringeworthy for me, and I thought this was absolutely disgusting. But whenever there were schoolgirls or a school trip going past, you used to get these old guys, alcoholic, missing teeth, who would kind of come out to the front and they'd kind of blow kisses at these 12, 13, 14-year-old girls. It was absolutely repulsive. Take home of this video, I think, more is that sometimes you've got to go through the hard yards. And I think that you've got to differentiate very early on the difference between like a job and a career. And I think a mistake I made with kind of every job that I had is a lot of them that weren't actually careers, I kind of considered them potentially as careers. So I was kind of thinking, like if I worked and I washed the most dishes or I was the most diligent, then I would kind of get promoted. And I never really found that to be the case through kind of my career. But definitely an interesting story about my life at Forte restaurants, the Granary in Heathrow, when I was 16, and the kind of people I crossed paths with there. But definitely a very interesting learn for that. But definitely not something you would want as a career. And something else that kind of worthwhile mentioning with regards to that is around the fact that a lot of the time having higher jobs is actually easier. And if you're kind of having to start from the very bottom and go through these kind of very low level junior jobs, what you tend to get is it tends to be a lot harder to move up. And this is where a lot of companies seem to miss out, is that they'll recruit people for a specific job who might be talented within another area. So I don't know, you might work in KFC and you might be an amazing marketer or advertiser or creative, or you might be absolutely fantastic within that area, but you're absolutely crap at putting salt and pepper on the chicken or the chips. I don't know how they make their food in KFC, but I think one learn for companies and managers is to look at identifying talent. And one thing I would say as a recruiter is always be considerate about getting good people in and then fitting jobs around them. But anyway, I thought you'd find that as an interesting story from when I was 16 working at Heathrow Airport. Stay tuned for more. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment. But on a serious note, if you can put a comment on anything that you'd like me to talk about or anything that you'd like to hear, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much for tuning in. Love you all. Take care. Bye.